New details now. Pfizer says it will seek emergency approval for its coronavirus vaccine within days. The drug maker also announcing after conducting a final analysis that it found its vaccine is now 95% effective, very similar to what Moderna said. Now, Pfizer says it does expect the FDA to review its data next month. New overnight, Oxford announcing promising results from its vaccine trials. The British company AstraZeneca that is working with the university says the vaccine produced a, quote, robust immune response in older adults whom have been determined to be most at risk of coronavirus. And Johnson & Johnson also announcing yesterday that it expects to have a vaccine ready for approval by February. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine would be a single dose as opposed to Moderna and Pfizer's two-dose shot. The company's pausing its trial briefly in September after someone who was part of that became sick. The trial resumed last month after there was an independent review. And here to break it all down, all of these vaccine developments, they keep on coming. We're going to bring in our good friend and Dr. Jason Littleton. Good to see you, Doc. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Amy?
Good, thanks. We need a flow chart to keep up with all of this. There's so much happening right now, but that is a good thing. That is a good thing. Let's talk first about Pfizer, Dr. Littleton, because they're saying they're going to be able to submit this to the FDA within a couple of days. Does that give us a better idea of a time frame?
Well, yeah, this is expected since their press release that, end of November that they would submit to the FDA for emergency use authorization. So with this being said, if approved, we expect them to have at least 20 to 40 million that they could possibly have available in December, with about 1.5 million in the next year for 2021. So they'll ramp up to 1.5 million in the next year.
All right, let's talk about effectiveness, because that is a big thing, right? We know the flu vaccine is anywhere between 30 to 60% effective on an average year, but we're talking about a coronavirus vaccine that could be as high as 95% effective. And now you got the companies, which is kind of funny, actually. One coming out saying, oh, we're 95% effective. The other one saying, oh, we're 90. And then Russia coming in and saying, oh, we're 92% effective over here. Are we going to see a lot of back and forth about this?
Well, that's interesting. Again, these are both private companies, so they're going to compete and they want to position themselves. But the real deal is that we're going to need all of them to meet not only the national demand, but the global demand. But when we talk about the 95% or 96%, again, this is with their own private studies. And again, yeah, it is stage 3 clinical trials, but some of these studies are not completed yet. With the Moderna one, they need at least 151 positive coronavirus cases, and as of last week they were only at 95, so they still have some ways to go. So these are preliminary results. They didn't publish anything with that announcement last week. That was a press release by the company, so we have to take that with a grain of salt, but understand that those results are pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's talk about whether or not you've had the virus already, and should you still get the vaccine, because there's still, a lot of unsure reviews about whether or not you will get coronavirus again if you've already gotten it.
Right. So the conventional thought is to go ahead and get the vaccine, because we don't know how long the immunity will last as someone who has coronavirus. And again, can strains change? Of course. So, the thought is by prolonging immunity, by getting the vaccine, this could actually afford greater protection for people, especially high-risk individuals. And I think that's pretty important.
Well, Doc, we know sometimes with the flu vaccine that it changes from year to year, right? They'll look and see, okay, here's what's happening maybe in Asia, and so we're going to tweak it. We know this is the strain that's coming. Will that be something similar we'll see with the coronavirus vaccine?
I potentially think so. Again, we're early in this. There are multiple trials that are underway, and different private companies have different approaches. So, with Moderna and Pfizer, those are two-dose vaccines. And the interesting thing about these two companies is that what they have is an mRNA that's going to be injected to host cells, producing a spike protein. And that spike protein is supposed to produce an immune response in our bodies. And so we think that this will, potentially help fight the coronavirus, and it could potentially cause a little bit of cross-reactivity for different strains that might change in the future. But, the jury's still out. We'll have to see. I suspect that we will have to provide a new vaccine every year.
All right. It is definitely a whole new world that we're living in. Dr. Jason Littleton, always a pleasure. Thank you for enlightening us this morning.
Thank you so much.
All right. Take care.